Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Between the Ropes TV. We've got a bit of a debate on our hands today. We're going to be talking British fighters, and we're going to be, well, I'm not going to be. I'm going to be sitting back and enjoying it. Ray and Josh are going to be offering their top 3 British fighters, and hopefully there's going to be a bit of a disagreement and a bit of debate with it as well. So I'm going to sit back and enjoy. But Ray, why don't you start us off, mate? Who's your third? If you had to pick your third best pound for pound British fighter, who are you going for?
Right now, I'm going to have to go for Anthony Joshua. I'm going to go for Anthony Joshua because he was
I said I
yeah.
wasn't going to get involved in the debate, but Josh knows what I feel about Anthony Joshua. But
you chucked a grenade in early doors.
I'll let you say a few things.
I thought I'd spice it on this Sunday morning, but Joshua, his resume for a heavyweight, I would believe it's the best resume that we got currently in heavyweight boxing. He's fought near enough everyone apart from Wilder and Fury. The impressive thing I like about Joshua, he's a two-time heavyweight champion. Aside from the Usyk, I mean, he's still got a puncher's chance against Usyk. If he beats Usyk, then you could say he's beaten everyone he's been in the ring against because he beat Ruiz in a rematch. There is a lot of talk about him being gun shy and perhaps he's a bit frightened to take a shot now. He's got stamina issues, but his strengths do negate that, particularly when he uses that to his advantage.
Right. Do you think he needs to go back to what he was known for? Do you think he should go back to the knockout specialist? Obviously not in the same way that you'd call Wilder a knockout specialist, but going back to that pure power, not trying to become this technical boxer. Do you think he needs to go back to what he's been known for, what he came off really?
Absolutely, Scott. He needs to go back to basics. That's what got him where he is in the first place, and he shouldn't forget that. He's trying to add a bit of finesse. He's trying to add another string to his bow. But for me, he should go back to that, particularly against Usyk. We saw that Usyk struggled against Chaz Witherspoon. We saw that he struggled really against Chisora. Yeah, he ended up winning those fights, but he struggled against those heavyweights that use their weight and putting on him. Now, there's very few heavyweights who do that better than Joshua, and Joshua can't do that. He needs to believe in himself a bit more. Whether that comes with a new team behind him, different training methods, or newfound self-belief, we don't know, but Joshua does have all the tools still, and I still think it's a bit early to be writing him off.
No, that's fair. I mean, at the moment, I'd probably put him third if we were talking about British heavyweights. Like, I'd put Fury and Whyte above him at the moment. But Josh, I'll let you take it away. Does he make your top 3? And if he doesn't, why? And who is your third position?
He doesn't. I'm a fan of Anthony Joshua, and I agree with everything Ray said, in fairness, about how he can come back from it. But for me, third, it's got to be Dillian Whyte. We're talking about heavyweight. Well, we're talking about heavyweight resumes, and for me, Joshua's is absolutely incredible, but Whyte's it's comparable to me. He's been in there back to back with the Parker, Rivas. His last sort of, what is he, 6 times headlining pay-per-views, so it's comparable, and it's the bit that he's missing is probably the heavyweight titles, but he's not had the shot, in fairness. Anthony Joshua, Matchroom, that machine is behind him, got his title shot early, obviously, and I'm not going to say he was lucky because you've got to beat who's got the belts, but I think Charles Martin would have to go down as one of the worst heavyweight champions possibly ever, but certainly in sort of the last 25 years. But obviously that got him his foot on the ladder, and it enabled him to get that title shot early, which obviously, and from there it just sort of snowballed, didn't it? He had the quick fire defenses with Brazil and then Molina into Klitschko, and from there he's been an absolute juggernaut. Dillian Whyte's not quite had that same sort of red carpet rolled out for him. I think he's had to he lost to Joshua. He then he was still boxing on good shows, but with Dave Allen, I think he fought Ian Lewison, and he had to build back properly and really dig deep. And I like to see that in a fighter. And now we finally are actually going to get to see him get his title shot.
Of course.
He's got to be number 3 for me.
Can you win that, Josh?
It's I'm dreading doing, when we'll do all the coverage, because I'm going to get splinters up my arse on that fight, because I'm a fan of Fury and Whyte. I think Fury wins it, but you can't rule Dillian Whyte out, can you? Because
no, that's a fair.
When he wants to dig in, he really does. And he gets results from it. And in fairness, I think with the drama of the Fury Wilder trilogy, we're all sort of, you can't help but sort of get sucked into that Fury hype train. However, Wilder for me really is, we've argued about it on this channel loads, Scott. He is just a knockout artist. He's not a boxer.
I mean, don't push me for a Wilder debate, because this will end up a 30-minute video, but I know what you're saying.
No, exactly.
Whereas
Whyte brings a different challenge.
I'm surprised with both of your choices, to be fair. I didn't see either of those making the top 3, so I'm interested on the rest of the list. Ray, who have you got in at number 2 then?
I've got Tyson Fury at number 2.
Yeah, I mean, he has to be in.
When I do a pound for pound list, there's a 2 or 3 things I'm absolutely looking for. One, skill set, the other one's resume, and the final things, well, what's that person done for me quite recently? So when it's good having someone on a pound for pound list, but I haven't boxed for 2.5 years, there's no point putting them on. But Tyson Fury, the only thing missing for me, I mean, this guy's got it all. What Josh said about Dillian Whyte, you could apply it to Tyson Fury. I mean, look at the way he come back from getting knocked down by a cruiserweight, Steve Cunningham. He had that controversial first fight against John McDermott. He avenged that. And these were when he was with Mick Hennessy, these were the tests that told me, these are the character building tests. So when he was put in against Wilder, he wasn't fazed by it. The first fight for me against Wilder was the most impressive. Coming back from depression, drug abuse, alcohol misuse, to put on a performance like that, in my opinion, he won that. The only gripe I've got with Tyson Fury is his lack of defenses and sort of, his antics and not taking rematches. He didn't give Klitschko that rematch. In my opinion, he was trying to wrangle his way out of the contract with Deontay Wilder. That went arbitration and Wilder won. And I know he was chasing the Joshua fight, but these things do sort of like tarnish his legacy a little bit, but you can't fault him in the ring. And I love the way he's changed his style. We were just on about Joshua, and maybe Joshua needs to go back to his old style. But Tyson Fury gave everyone the impression that he can't punch. He's just somebody that, I mean, he's got amazing feet for a heavyweight. He moves around the ring like a middleweight. He's so light on his feet. But I like the way he's gone back to the Kronk gym. He's adopted that style that originally has come from Manny Stewart, very right-hand heavy. And he's realising that he's a heavy lad, 19-20 stone. So why can't he not use that size and weight advantages? Just been saying it about Joshua. If you've got it, use it. And
I mean, you mentioned defence. I mean, obviously switching that kind of comment to another thing that people have said about Tyson Fury, and that is that he does get knocked down quite a bit. Yes, he has got up, but does that give Dillian Whyte? People are talking about can Whyte win it? That's got to give Whyte some hope, hasn't it? Because if Whyte hits him with one of those hooks, I know we speak about Wilder's power, but Whyte's got a lot of hidden power, hasn't he? And I think that will probably be what Whyte will go in for.
To be fair, Whyte hits harder than Cunningham, who floored him. And he got roughed up by Otto Wallin as well. So Fury has been roughed up by people who aren't as powerful as Dillian Whyte. So it should give Dillian Whyte confidence. But as Dillian Whyte comes forward, he's susceptible to taking shots. Particularly the uppercut, and we saw that with Joshua and Povetkin. So it also gives Fury some confidence as Dillian Whyte marches forward that he could take him out as well.
Josh, who have you got then in at number 2? I'm guessing you must have Fury on the list somewhere.
Don't assume anything, Scott.
I am. It's an obvious one, that is.
No, number 2 for me, it's got to be Josh Taylor. You see these lists pop up, and the reason for us actually doing this video was actually last week. Obviously, it was sort of trending all over social media that BoxRec had got Josh Taylor below the likes of Callum Smith and stuff. And it's outrageous. Josh Taylor, I think, we have sort of briefly touched on it before. I think he's been quite sort of badly promoted and managed at times, but he's a superstar. Let's not get that twisted. Undisputed at 140. He's done it in pretty quick fashion as well. A little bit of inactivity sort of crept in over the last couple of years, as in fairness, as it sort of has for everybody. Obviously, injuries didn't help that. He was supposed to be out before Christmas. But no, he can do it all as well. He's done it all on the road, which is another factor that, for me, when you're looking at a pound for pound list, have they done it all in the backyard on their own promoters' shows where it's not gifted to them, obviously, but obviously it sort of helps. Yeah, it does sort of help, doesn't it? And, everything's under your control. Josh Taylor's never really had those luxuries. I was watching an interview of him the other day, and like, he's not even fought at home in over, I think it was near getting on for 3 years against Baranchuk. I think, and he's got the potential as well. He's undisputed at 140. He's about to obviously have his defense with Jack Catterall. And then, he could go up to 147. There's some big fights there. He's just got to be on this list for me, because I really think if he was managed better and promoted better, I think he'd be one of the bit, like, outside of probably Joshua as a commercial superstar, he'd probably be one of the biggest names in boxing in the country, definitely.
I mean, Ray, I'm going to ask a quick question just so I know where to go with this next. Is he on your list at all?
Well, you're asking number one now, aren't you?
Yeah. I think I think it'd be difficult to have a list of British fighters and not have Josh Taylor somewhere.
There we go. I'm guessing your second and first have probably both switched around. My guess would be, but let's find out, Ray. I'm guessing you've got Josh Taylor at number one then.
You're no surprise Josh Taylor's got to be number one, and I can't add much more to what Josh has said there. I mean, for me, the fact that there's only been 6 undisputed boxers in the modern era tells it all. I was really disappointed. I think it was criminal the way he didn't get any recognition of that. I respect the fact that the sports personality of the year, you need to be well known, but I think the problem that we've got is, and it's helping now that he's on the Sky Sports boxer top rank sort of deal going forward now. I think that'll bring him to the British public, bring him to the fore a lot more. So I'm looking forward to seeing where he goes. Also, as well, I'm pretty confident he wins the Catterall fight, but he's going to be going up to welterweight. That's for me the money division in the lower weight categories. That should bring him more attention. But it's not just that; it's his resilience in fights as well. His ring IQ. Look at the fights against Prograis. Look at the fights against Ramirez. These weren't easy fights. They were close fights. But what was happening is, like with Josh Taylor, is he never seems to lose more than 2 or 3 rounds in a row, which tells me he's a sign of a great fighter. He seems to realise that he's down, realise that his opponent's doing something, perhaps using a jab or doubling up on that jab, slipping to the side of his own jab, and then he makes adjustments. And that's what I like to see in a fight. We've seen it recently with Teofimo Lopez when he fought Cambosos Jr. He didn't make any adjustments. You don't see that with Josh Taylor. So for me, skill set wise, puts him up there, and that's why we're talking about an undisputed champion.
It's an interesting one, that, isn't it? Because you do see sometimes, and you don't see it sometimes, you see it all the time, like fighters, well, they've gone in with their game plan. You can tell it's not working by round 3 or 4, and often it just carries on not working. I do agree, a sign of a really good fighter is those that go, yes, it's not working. We might have worked on this game plan, but what can I now try? I think a lot of that also comes down to the trainers helping as well. But if the fighter hasn't got that mindset, then it's not going to work, is it? Josh, I'm gonna throw something out. I'm guessing you've got Mr. Fury in at number 1.
Yeah, I have, to be fair. No, I think, and again, I can't really add too much more to what Ray said about obviously with him being at number 2. But I think the only thing for me that tips him over Josh Taylor at the minute is the current form and the name value. And in fairness to Josh Taylor, that's not a knock on him as a fighter or as a person. It's probably more down to his management and promotional team. But, there's not a day that goes by as the Fury's not in some sort of press for whether it be an Instagram story or something. It can be anything. And I think that's when, someone goes from being a boxing star amongst us, like proper fans who really follow the sport. And it's when they get that crossover value then, and then they become sort of superstars of just sport, never mind just boxing.
UFC potentially as well.
I was just about to mention the guy from Cameroon, the heavyweight, and plus Fury's been in WWE as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. I think, was it WrestleMania? It was one of those.
Something like that. Yeah. Something like that.
You know what, as well, I'm going to be fair to him. I think we all probably watched WWE as a kid and stuff, but obviously I'm a bit out of touch with it. But I did actually watch his wrestling match or fight, whatever you want to call it. And he wasn't that bad. I've got to be honest. He did it quite well, considering he's the guy he was wrestling was massive as well, but he was actually quite good and doing some wrestling moves, to be fair to him.
I mean, 90% of it as well, from what I remember as a kid. It's like 10% the actual wrestling, 90% the talk. And he's definitely got the talk, hasn't he, to be a WWE superstar. He'd definitely entertain. I suppose for the Americans, he's got that kind of old school Wade Barrett feel about him. But yeah, back onto the actual boxing discussion then. I mean, you guys have obviously both alternated in terms of Josh Taylor and Fury. Would you say there's much in it either way?
No, I think the main thing is you can't argue the fact that Fury's in the main money division. You know, that's the blue ribbon division for boxing. Who's your heavyweight champion? And it brought excitement. It brought a new lease of life when he beat the man who beat the man, when he beat Klitschko all those years ago in Germany. That was probably one of the biggest shocks for most people, sort of, you know, in the past decade or even more. I thought you would win it then, and he's just improved ever since. He's got better and better every fight. Apart from the once against Varlin and that, but you could just see, you know, he just, you know, he knew he'd win those comfortably. So you could argue there's not much in it.
No, for sure. And I think, do you know what? I think the debate in the comments are going to come from probably you guys' third place choices. I think that's going to cause a bit of debate. So I'm hoping to see some comments of people maybe offering their view as well, because I don't know who I would have put in actually, but I don't think it would have been either of those two. But yeah, guys, do let us know your thoughts. Make sure to hit that like button as always and subscribe to the channel as well. And we'll see you on the next video. Goodbye.